Do the San Antonio Spurs have what it takes to qualify for the playoffs? Or do they at least have what it takes for making a play-in run? Well, Vegas says no. The Spurs win projection's been projected at 35 by the most knowledgeable experts in the world. By those with the best intel and the best connections. By those who make the bookmakers billions of dollars every year. But are they right? I mean, Wembanyama's rookie season's been spectacular enough to expect this jump, right?
Wembanyama. Oh, goes and puts it down!
Or is it crazy to say that the Frenchman's going to be one of the top 10 players in the league this season? And if so, is it crazy to say that the Spurs could be a playoff team? Well, maybe yes, but more importantly, San Antonio and Gregg Popovich know this isn't a playoff or bust season. Their latest moves, however, indicate other kinds of changes. The NBA is a cyclical league. It works just like the economy. Every team goes through hard times and bust times too. The Spurs were blessed throughout their history with elite coaches and management who maximize their good eras and minimize their bad eras to a ridiculous point.
And now, let me present the Larry O'Brien Trophy to this year's NBA champions.
However, recent times, well, they haven't been so pleasant. In fact, the Spurs have missed the playoffs more times in the last 5 seasons than in the entire time since their founding in 1976 through 2019. So yeah, we could say we're in the darkest stage of the franchise's history. However, this isn't going to last long. And it's not too complicated to deduce why. Victor Wembanyama threatens to end it all. He's the kind of player that, if you surround him with some talent commitment, will turn any team into a contender. And pretty much everyone agrees with this.
Wemby. Oh!
But not only did Wemby need more league experience when he arrived, but his supporting cast was completely inadequate. Many of the players Gregg Popovich used to try to maximize Victor's production was borderline NBA talent. And in some cases, we're talking about G League talent. And that translated into a lot of losses last season. In fact, the Spurs were on their way to one of the worst records in league history during the first half of the season, although this failure was overshadowed by the terribly bad season that the Detroit Pistons had. Now, the end of the season was completely different. The Spurs finished with a record of 11 wins and 12 losses in their last 23 regular season games and were feeling much better. And this is the first reason why we would expect a real breakout season from San Antonio. But still, I have no doubt that their last moves are the ones that can allow them to achieve this goal. Let me tell you something. If in some parallel universe LeBron James had not existed, people would be talking about the absurd longevity of Chris Paul, a player who just 3 seasons ago at 36 finished in the top 10 in MVP voting. A player who's made absolutely every team he's been a starter on better, and a player who's the best floor general so far this century. He's the quintessential point god.
Again, the switch, and West has got the defensive assignment. Paul with the bounce.
And his value as a mentor has been widely appreciated by many of the league stars. Just ask Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Having a point guard like that is what makes the difference between a disarrayed team and one that's not. Chris has been making offensive systems work for 2 decades, and now he's going to do the same for the Spurs. While Trey Jones isn't a bad player, CP3's experience should elevate San Antonio's game. Because no one seems like a better choice to lead a team that's full of very young players to a winning culture than him. But Paul isn't going to be the only veteran presence the Spurs have managed to attract this summer, because in the same trade in which the Sacramento Kings received DeMar DeRozan from Chicago, San Antonio was the team that ended up making room on their roster for Harrison Barnes, a forward with championship experience and a solid career as a starter during his NBA tenure. Another player who, while not a huge difference maker, is able to bring his value as a veteran to a roster in need of experience.
Harrison Barnes with the steal. Harrison Barnes with the flush.
However, there are players who have already passed the learning curve. Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell have spent their entire careers in San Antonio and have experienced this dark period firsthand. They're players who are ready to be part of a winning roster but have not yet had the opportunity to prove it. Keldon, despite being in many trade rumors over the past 12 months, is a player who's shown the ability to score. However, he may be too slow to defend small forwards, and is too small to defend power forwards, and is also a streaky shooter. Something that's undoubtedly worsened his market value. But Devin Vassell, however, is coming off the best season of his career in both scoring and assists, as well as efficiency. This should be a big year for him if he wants to be considered a cornerstone of one of the most emerging franchises of recent times.
In his 10th year in the league. Vassell with the dunk and
But of course, San Antonio's young core will have to do its job. Because let's be honest, the goal of this roster is none other than to play through Victor Wembanyama. The 7'4" French center is already very close to being an unguardable player as he becomes the best defender in the league. Although honestly, I think he already is. His presence as a rim protector can make the Spurs one of the best defenses in the NBA almost immediately.
For the miss, Jaren Jackson blocked by wembyama.
But I think the expectations of him even being an all-star starter are really attainable for him. To help, the rest of the prospects that management's been getting over the last few years will also be there for him. Jeremy Sochan has to step up this year, and Stephen Castle will have a chance to show that he's ready to contribute even though he's just starting his rookie season. However, the team's depth chart looks extremely superior to that of last year. In addition, the enormous haul of assets San Antonio has at its disposal to get the profiles they need before the trade deadline is overwhelming. Management has accumulated 17 first-rounders through 2031, and we already know that every player has his price in the league. If during the last few weeks they managed to be close to 500, who's to say they won't be able to fight for a top 8 finish? Well, there's a very important reason why they probably won't make it, and it doesn't really depend on them. If we analyze all the rosters in the Western Conference, we come to a conclusion. The NBA is loaded with talent, more than ever.
Jaren Morant spins and hits again! Holy cow!
So, how's it possible that the Portland Trail Blazers are the favorite to occupy the last position in the West? A roster that has Anthony Simons, DeAndre Ayton, Jeremy Grant, and this offseason also bet on Danny Advia. Are we talking about the best potential 15 seed in league history? Because I think it's really possible. That's why the competition for play-in spots is tougher than ever. If San Antonio follows the bookmakers' prediction, their 35 wins will be far from enough. Last season, the Golden State Warriors managed to finish 10th in the conference with a record of 46 wins and 36 losses. The Rockets were out of the play-in after achieving a 500 record. Therefore, the Spurs would have to far exceed their Vegas expectations even to get into contention. Is this likely? Well, probably not so much. I understand all the hype around Wemby, and under normal circumstances, well, he might be capable. But today, it seems impossible. However, the Spurs' goal this season isn't to qualify for the playoffs. For that, there's still a lot of work ahead. As I said, the Spurs have been in a precarious situation for 5 seasons, signing players with limited potential to their roster who have failed to rebuild a winning culture. But Gregg Popovich and Chris Paul, men who know all too well the sacrifices that come with success, are there to teach them how to win. The careers of both coach and point guard are nearing their end, but if there's one reason they're still around, it's to help build the foundation of a project that has the potential to become one of the most dominant dynasties in league history. Sometimes it's the sum of minor factors that unlocks maximum potential.